So, Nikki, we will follow the Notion one, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Start, guys.
Okay. Has it started?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Okay, sounds good. Let's start. So hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining to our AMA today. Today's AMA will be about layer one, and we'll be introducing major layer one, the consensus mechanism, one of the unique features, one of adoption stories, including sharing some of the real world application and success story built on all this layer one. No worries if you're a new layer one in general, you could kind of share like what's your plan, how you're gonna engage with some of the new projects in general. So to kickstart in general, could you all of the participants kind of briefly introduce yourself, briefly tell us about your project in general, explain like what are the consensus mechanism used by your blockchain protocol, how does it ensure network security, and what is the primary vision of your layer one protocol, and what do you plan to achieve it in the next few years? So we could start by Kerching, after Choo with Arsenii, Nimrod, and after Sukesh. We can start with this. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Hi everyone. My name is Kerching. So I'm the CTO for Hela Labs, this company who responsible for the chain called Hela chain. So we are a new chain in the crypto space. We started our projects last year, and then we're just recently have launched our main testnet a couple months ago, and then we are in the beta mainnet as well. So talking about our consensus, so we picked the Tendermint consensus as our consensus mechanism. So Tendermint, as everybody knows, is a popular, very robust and secure consensus mechanism that allow the scalability. It allows us to be able to have multiple nodes, to make it more secure. And then also it has this the Byzantine fault tolerance mechanism. So it basically is quite a secure and battle tested, I would say, mechanism that is currently popular in the blockchain space. So maybe I share a bit about what is our vision. So currently our vision is to really close the gap between the Web2 space and the Web3 space. Because some of the initial reason why we started the chain is to really to fill the gap that currently because we ourselves before that also we are the one who actually built projects and DeFi projects and some dApps projects that we see there's some needed information or features that is currently not available, like for example, the uncertainties of the native coin price fluctuations, and also the privacy preserving concerns. So these are the currently some of the key major factors that actually hinder the progress of adoption for the Web2 space. So hence that actually inspire us to come out to do a new project. So in order to achieve such a goal, to really try to bring people to this space, one of the things that definitely we created the new initiative called the Hela ecosystem. We name it the Helaverse. Basically, we give grants and give initiative programs. And even we work with industry expert from Singapore to help to move the Web2 application to Web3. So maybe later on we can share a bit more on what's the initiative. Yeah. So in general, that's us in the very young and coming blockchain.
Thank you, Kerching. I've never heard before about Hela Labs, so I'm really thankful that your team reached out, and now I got to find out. After that, I was able to research actually and find out what you guys are doing.
Yes,
super cool.
Yeah, more than welcome. Yes.
Yep, we can follow up next with Arsenii.
Yeah, hi guys, my name is Arsenii. I develop a relation in Gnosis chain, one of the oldest, most close EVM compatible chains. We're one of the most decentralized blockchain. We have more than 140,000 validators, more than Ethereum. So, and we focus on the providing infrastructure for real-world assets. And if you saw the announce during SCC, we just launched a Gnosis Pay, one of the first no custodial bank card, which are also focused to bring the gap between traditional finance and decentralized finance. So it's mostly about our chain.
Yeah, super cool. Gnosis Pay also registered and super excited to use my code in the future as well. Yeah, thank you so much. And following up with Nimrod.
So, everyone, I'm Nimrod from Q Development AG. I see now that there are some issues with my internet, so just let me know if it drops and I'll try and sort. So I'm in the ecosystem development team at Q, the development agency of Q, and essentially Q. So one side of Q, it's more or less standard L1 EVM compatible chain, which you can work with it like that. But that's not the reason why we created Q, or why the initiators created Q. The problem that Q is trying to solve is the transfer of accountability between on and off chain. Okay, so the world still lives as its own bubble, its own universe, and when we need to transfer accountability, there's no smooth way to do that. And I mean, we see that in the real world, in many DAOs, even very big and established DAOs in this ecosystem, that they end up acting against the will of their members. We see it in different use cases that didn't really pick up in the Web3 space as much as they picked up in the Web2. For example, fractionalized real estate. There is a movement in Web3, but the Web2 movement is much bigger during the last bull run and real estate bubble. And what we believe is that there is a lack of this accountability, right? And the way Q solves that is with what we call our governance mechanism. So the governance mechanism is live, and we're governed by it, and our validators are also governed by it. But also we offer that to projects building on Q. And when you opt in, so you may use Q as L1, or you can opt into Q, to the governance mechanism. You opt into it. Essentially, you are opting into three things. So the first thing is every project that opted in needs to have a constitution, so we know how it's supposed to be governed. The second thing is there are very unique entities. I think as far as I know, there only exist in Q called root nodes. These are real world reputable entities. So entities of reputation in the real world. And it's from corporates like Deutsche Telekom to professor universities in MIT, or we have professors in Africa. We have legal firms around the world that are root nodes, financial institutions, so on and so forth. And these guys, their jobs is to review constitutions and to make sure that any proposal that is made aligns with this constitution. So they actually read PDFs, and they have the obligation to make sure that if a proposal goes against the constitution of a project, they have to stop a transaction in a validator level. So they just wouldn't they can stop block from forming. Essentially, this is very simply put. The whole mechanism is slightly more complicated. And the third level of this governance mechanism is the whole mechanism to govern the root nodes themselves, which I will skip here because that's also quite complex, but there are different ways for us to control them internally within the ecosystem and the community. But also Q is an official partner of the International Chambers of Commerce. So if needed, you can escalate a dispute with Q to them and have essentially a court observe that case. And that's how we kind of bridge the accountability. That's a long answer for Q and how it works. In vision, in 5 years, we're big believers in the multi-chain world and cross-chain governance of projects. I think that's how we see it. So different projects, different chains getting their speciality forward. And I think, yeah, different projects will be much more diverse in chains.
No, thanks
That's
to
it.
this actually also session, I managed to find out about Cure. So I think, yeah, so let's now move on to Sukesh. Tell us about Telos.
Yeah, thanks for giving the opportunity here. Yeah, super excited to be here. So my name is Sukesh. I'm based out of Sweden, and I'm the head of liquidity and exchanges at Telos Foundation. I'm also one of the founding team members at Telos Network. And so talking about Telos, Telos is a layer 1 blockchain network, and we've been live since 2018, one of the oldest networks out there. And over the last 5 years, we never had any downtime or issues. And Telos stands for its speed and faster throughput in terms of processing number of transactions, and also in terms of the block times as well. Today we have half a second block time. So the transaction speed is quite fast, and we can already do like more than 15,000 plus transactions per second. And this was recently validated by one of the universities in the US. And in addition to that, over the last 5 years, we also launched an EVM during 2021. And with EVM compatibility now, we are bringing the same benefits of our native network, which is the speed and block times to the EVM as well. So that now, if you're doing a transaction, it's pretty much instantaneous, like once you do a swap. I think there was just a video today that was published on our Twitter, someone testing the swap. So you just do a swap and it's already done on the chain. It actually takes a couple of seconds for MetaMask to update because of how it's designed to support Ethereum and other blockchains. So it's quite instantaneous from that standpoint. And we also have low gas fees. And especially for our EVM network, the way the network is designed is like first in, first out concept. So we don't have any front running by design of the network, and because there is no concept of mempool. And in addition to that, we also have something called flat gas fees model, which means like the price doesn't vary based on the number of transactions happening on the chain. It's if you're doing a same transaction on the same day or in a 1 week or something, you still pay the same gas fees into Telos tokens as well. So it gives more predictability to consumers, but also like the dApps itself. If they want to compensate the gas fees for their users, then they know exactly how much gas fees they're going to spend and they can easily measure and do the budget and everything from that standpoint. So we use, in terms of consensus mechanism, we use delegated proof of stake with BFT. So if you're familiar with EOS network, so Telos uses the same technology and same consensus mechanism as EOS. I think that covers most of it about Telos. I would say, like, in terms of focus areas and vision for us, like right now our main focus is in the GameFi and DeFi space, and we've been actively working to grow within those particular areas, because especially in those areas, like you don't want to have front running, you want to have faster transaction processing. So Telos is a perfect blockchain for those particular use cases that we're working on right now.
Yes, just a full disclosure, Sukesh and myself will work together. So it's awesome to see my colleague here. So thank you so much, guys. It was awesome to get some introduction from you and learn a lot about actually the chains that are present here. So just like some questions, right, to kick off the discussions. So for example, Arsenii, I would like to know, like, I think our audience is also interested to know, like, what strategies and generally speaking, methods has like Gnosis chain implemented to foster a diverse and inclusive developer ecosystem, and what results have been so far yielded?
So if correctly understand your question about the diversity, our focus is to help project grow in our ecosystem. So we are not focusing on the providing grants as other ecosystem last year. We're trying to support the project in all type of support which we can provide: partnership, providing liquidity on some agreements, marketing support, together marketing activity. For example, one of the last example, months ago we launched Mifrilum. It's a one world game, if correct remember this term, and we helped to launch this tournament in this game. And we still follow this role. So we have also internal fund which make investigation in the perspective project on our chain, and so any kind of support. And of course, we're trying to support builders on hackathons. Also, the guys arrived to our community. Me as OG as a developer in crypto, I also share all my knowledge. Maybe you saw the list of grant program which I collected last year, and some articles about how to grow ecosystem, how to check hypothesis, and some other workshops.
Oh, that would be cool if you could share this research. But generally speaking, you said, like, you mentioned that you don't do grants, but you do other ecosystem support, right? Like, I remember, for example, last year you were having some sort of, right, Gnosis ecosystem builders or something like this, where like they requested through the proposal 13 million or something like that, and they were trying to kind of grow the ecosystem with that funding. Like, and initially my thought was that funds were directed towards grants. Were they, or were they were not? And like, generally speaking, like how
I'm exactly part of the Gnosis builders who received this grant. So we as I can't say that we are service company. We're totally not service company. We're responsible for growing ecosystem. It's our responsibility. So we take care of the project. So we focus on exactly the supporting project.
All right, super. Thank you so much.
One more remark. Of course, also we have grants, but our focus of grants in the public goods and tooling, of course. But we're trying to avoid abusing of grant mechanics, because you know the grants is very tricky, and a lot of projects look on the grant like a free investigation or something like this. Exactly. In EVM world, where is all chains are approximately the same with all costs, and it doesn't matter is layer 2 or layer 1, because from the DApp side, from the developer side, is still separate chains, because not truly there isn't any truly interoperability protocol which allows you atomic swaps for the chains, etc. So you still build the atomic dApps for all chains. Maybe you could be multi-chain, but not a lot of cross-chain activity. So, and we trying to avoid abusing the grants.
Understood. Got it. Interesting point. Super great to hear. So also, yes, would like to ask the same question to Kerching, right? So like, I mean, you're pretty novel, right? You mentioned about grants program briefly. So would like to know what like kind of initiatives, what kind of strategies you're implementing to kind of foster a diverse and inclusive developer ecosystem, and like what results are you looking for?
Right. Thank you. So again, I just mentioned earlier that our chain is still quite relatively new in the market. Hence, we are now really the full force initiative to start to engage the communities by having the ecosystem grants and partnerships that we are working on. Like one of the grant is definitely something that I think most of the developers were looking for, you know, when they want to be enticed or encouraged to build projects on your chain, is definitely one of the key issues. But not only that we can support, but also in terms of technical, we also be willing to come and help. That being said, because we have a partnership with one of the research agency in Singapore, this is called A-Star. A-Star is actually a Singapore under the Minister of Trade. There's a company that is formed by the Singapore agency to basically recruit the talents from all over the world, and then we actually have a close partnership with them to come up with the scheme to help to promote and develop the L1 chain, Hela. So this one is a technical partner that we have that is we can be utilized to help not just any small companies or any types of projects, maybe they face certain challenges or difficulties, we can provide, not just from the grant point of view, but also in the technical consultancy and so these are the things that, and then of course, being a L1 chain, we are permissionless chain, then anybody can actually come and build. So we are welcome for all the use case. So our focus is really that, right now at the moment is creating the new features. Like for example, I think I haven't mentioned earlier, like introduce a new features and flavors and like for example, our chain actually utilizing a stable coin as a gas fee. So that actually changes the certain momentums and the usability and use case for the project steps that can come on board. And then also we will promote the privacy preserving mechanism to allow the user to encrypt certain transactions, and this new use case that actually will now include opportunities for more users to have a different use case to come on board. So this is actually create more diversities and people who have certain ideas, certain, that usually not able to achieve in the previous or the current very open, transparent mechanism and using a native coin, they actually open up a new use case and new opportunity. So this is an area that we are highly focused in and try to be, like you say, more inclusive for every people. We are very open. I think just now one of the panel has mentioned, so like grant right now, people are looking at it as like a opportunity to get like some free cash flow. So we also have expert panels to reviews and make sure whatever the projects, grants, and whatever that it actually can really benefit and it's a real projects. Yeah. So.
Sounds good. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing like what kind of strategy that you're looking for and also some of the success story by Gnosis. So we're gonna start next by asking Q Network and also Telos, like depending on what the introduction just now that you just mentioned, like what is the dApp that you're looking for to build on top of your chain? And like what are you looking for? Is there a new sector that you want to explore or any kinds of new dApps that you're looking for in the space that you guys are exploring or industry that you're exploring that wants to build in your chain in general? We could start with Sukesh.
Yeah, sure. I think yeah, as I mentioned earlier, right, like our key focus right now is mainly DeFi and GameFi space. So we've been talking with a lot of DeFi and GameFi applications. I think in the recent weeks, we announced at least 10 applications that are launching on the network. And in addition to that, we also have a full list of GameFi applications that are launching. And these games have been successful historically on different chains, but also there are some new games that are launching with serious gameplay and everything. So our focus is mainly to attract more Web2 users into the Web3 ecosystem, and we want to utilize these different games and services to basically attract that kind of audience into the Web3 space.
Cool. And following up with Nimo.
Yeah. So for us, our angle is slightly different, right? What we're excited about is pushing this, our governance mechanism and challenging that and making that quite complex mechanism usable for particular use cases, right? So dApps could integrate into that easily. So what we started doing is kind of integrating in small, taking the whole mechanism and kind of funneling to solve very small problems. So where we see very good traction, a lot of interest, and where the big part of our work now is also DeFi, GameFi, but very specifically projects that want to do upgradable contracts, and that's a tricky one, right? Upgradable contracts, because one hand, developers would always rather have the option of fixing bugs later on and not having to preemptively fix it all. But on the other hand, the industry has experienced a fair few rug pulls due to upgradable contracts. So how do you govern these contracts that on the one hand you can fix bugs, but prevent rug pulls? And this is something that we're working with a few projects on, where our governance mechanism has a veto power over their smart contract updates. And that's a very interesting direction. Another one is with DAOs, where we look at the treasury. So we kind of took the whole governance mechanism and focused on treasury supervision. So how do you make sure that, well, first of all, if you're a DAO, that your members trust you, that you're actually going to move the funds as they voted to, but also that you're not, or that you'll be less exposed to governance attacks, right? So that is also something we're playing with a few projects and testing and kind of adapting the mechanism around that for them. And then we have some more kind of developments, but I think they're slightly more in the early stage. I mean, we're also quite young project. So yeah, but I'd say currently these are the main two angles. But of course, yeah, I think all over the board we have discussions.
Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you very much. And you actually touched upon a very great point. That's like what I'm really passionate about myself. It's the governance part, right? So here, like you mentioned a little bit about the case on Q network, and I would like to also ask Arsenii, would you to start, because I think people know a lot about Gnosis, but I think like it would be good for you to also provide more explanation. So how does, like, for example, Gnosis handle governance and decision making within the community? For example, are there some unique approaches you have implemented? And I mean, like, you've been in existence like for a long time. I remember in 2017 when Gnosis was a prediction market. So I would be really, would be cool if you could just provide overview for our community of your governance process. So
I'm not too deep in this topic, to be honest, because I'm typical developer and not so good in the social activity. But we, as I think most of blockchains, we have a governance forum where you can voting with your tokens. One more highlights about our blockchain. We in backend chain we have GNO token, is now a native token we're using for validators, and as gas token we use a stablecoin DAI. It's original DAI with just bridged our chain, so it's a give more opportunity for DeFi for more stable fee gas price. But same time it's hard to make value of our token. Average typical activity, so forum, improvement proposals, governments for voting, etc. Nothing special.
Understood. And Kerching, how about you guys?
Okay, so governance is definitely one of the most important things in the blockchain space, because it will determine whether there's a future, after our time, whether this chain can live forever. So for us, it's very straightforward. There's a DAO mechanism as most of the blockchain today. So one of the differences that we are proposing is to do in terms of the permissions. Because the way that we design is that there will be a multi-layer modular design where there are different layers of in terms of the nodes to perform different tasks. The consensus layer is where the majority of the stake of our stake tokens has a staker, and then those people who own the token, they actually can vote for the decisions. Since we are again, I mentioned we are quite a young chain at the moment. We are just a starting incubation stage. So most of we basically make the decision first. But when we are ready to launch the tokens into the public, then we will have procedures and the mechanism to engage and to vote the future decision for the blockchains. So I think that is a key thing. And then the second thing is also we have proposed to have a few key KYC partners who directly participate in the initial stage, where we will have trusted entities and partners to run as the key pillars of the decisions proposing first. eventually when we reach a state with more maturity, then we will release to the communities and let the future take over, and so that you have a perpetual life of a blockchain. Yeah.
Wow, super cool.
Amazing, amazing. And we talk about a lot of benefits of using your blockchain in general, your layer 1 protocol. We talk about the governance, we talk about the community, etc. So we wanted to talk about adoption for a bit. And we talk about a lot of benefits that we also want to understand, like what are the barriers that you guys are facing by onboarding users in general. I believe like all layer 1, layer 2s have their own barriers, and how do you address it, or how are you gonna solve it in the future? Would be great if we could hear answers from Sukesh and also Nimo on this. Yeah.
Yeah, I can kickstart. So I think starting in 2018, right? So being through like different cycles of the market, I think the biggest challenge we had was when we launched the network, we did like a fair launch. So we didn't do any fundraising or anything. Like the Telos network was purely launched by people believing in the same idea. So when we started, like we were initially 10 people, and then we scaled. By the time we launched the network, we were more than 150 people across 20 different time zones, working together with one goal and one vision, right? So, but throughout that process, like since the launch, now 5 years ahead, there were like a lot of challenges in terms of like how we, because initially, like you have this group of people coming together, but later on, like in order to actually do the business development or operations and marketing, like you need still one centralized entity which has to work in tandem with the governance of the network. So and also like lack of capital, right? Like because we did a fair launch, there was no funds basically to do anything. So that kind of had a huge impact on the operations. But I think now we are at a position where we have been growing more organically. The growth has been slow, but compared to any other blockchains out there today, everyone's competing for more applications, building on their network, more gas fees being generated, more utilization of the network, right? So yeah, and that's kind of what we are working towards right now. So over the last 18 months, like we've been really focusing on optimizing our costs, but also like really focusing on a specific area of focus, like DeFi and GameFi. So we believe like by focusing in these specific areas with a mission to increase the transactions on the network, utilization of the network. Yeah, with that in mindset, like we are working towards like every decision making that we're doing right now has this fundamental point. Okay, does this actually work towards increasing the transactions, increasing utilization, bringing new users to the ecosystem? So what is it actually doing, right? So whether we are doing a grant approvals or whether we are spending resources on a specific project or topic, yeah, every single decision is we have this criteria that it has to pass. So I think with that in mind, like we can really start focusing and trying to start achieving the goals. Like if you look at like all the layer 1s today, layer 1s, layer 2s, like 99% of them are not profitable, right? Like they're just losing money. If you're working in a traditional business setup, like these are failing businesses at the end of the day. So you cannot just keep minting the tokens to fund the operations, right? So at some point in time, the networks have to be at least break even. Doesn't need to make profits, but at least need to be break even for the operations that they're doing. So I think, yeah, that's been one of the key things that we've been focusing on and trying to work towards right now.
Yes, for those who don't know, Telos is a real community chain, so check it out, please. Yes, a little bit chilling from my side, so okay.
We can go with Nimo for the question.
So the question again was how do we deal with adoption? Or can you repeat it?
Yeah, it's yeah, how do you see yeah, how do you deal with adoption? What are the physical barrier towards your adoption process, and how are you addressing them in general? Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, I mean, again, there are a few ways for us to look at adoption. So it's an L1, and that's one thing. And I think that's, again, for us, slightly less exciting. The more exciting is really this focus on the governance side of things and the governance mechanism. And for us, the main challenge with adoption of our governance mechanism is, first of all, it's still quite complex to integrate with, right? So that's why we started now essentially creating these streams that simplified for kind of niche use cases. And that's been actually working really well, right? Because if I comment, well, first of all, just to understand a general discussion about like government's very high level, a lot of projects don't really see how, don't connect to that. And then even if they do connect, making that, like taking that and using that in their daily life is too complicated. So they, they'd rather not have dealt with it. So that now that we've simplified it in these use cases, we see really, cool traction. It's still, it's still not, it's still quite slow, the adoption, in the sense that it's a very hands-on process still. It's still kind of early days of these, like, it's really first projects that are now onboarding onto the governance mechanism. And that's kind of enough because we're taking them by the hand. We're learning how to simplify things. But we see it just speed up, right? Like the more we can work with them, the more we streamline processes, the more we can bring things, from discussions to on the chain. So that's mainly how we kind of work with it, right? We simplified it and kind of do a lot of hand holding, and then we're building around what we're learning from that hand holding, and hopefully that will, eventually pick up. So I think currently the main bottleneck actually is physically our time, but hopefully in a month or 2 or 3 that wouldn't be the case anymore, right?
Oh, makes sense.
That kind of situation.
Yeah, thank you so much. Like, really cool to find out about this stuff, like constitution, like on Q network, like really cool. I'm super keen to actually dive into it deeper. So generally speaking, like, I will ask one final question to all of you, so you can actually provide some input. I think for our audience, it will be also cool to understand, like, basically what's upcoming, right? So what I would like to know, what upcoming features, like, or developments can, like, people, users, or your fans, your community look forward to from your, like, chain in the near future? And generally speaking, right, how do you see the role of your chain evolving in the broader, like, crypto ecosystem over the next 5 years? So if we could kick it off with Kerching.
Wow. Okay. I was hoping you would pick me.
You didn't expect that, right?
So yeah, I mean, maybe so maybe I just add out a little bit on the topic which is now about the adoption. So this is also related to the topic that you just mentioned. What do we see us for the next 5 years? So one of the things that our chain was born is really talking about adoptions. So, how do you actually move, like, currently, the things that we are familiar with, like, your online banking service, your games that you play online, in the traditional Web2, environment where everybody's comfortable. How do you bring this into Web3 in the decentralized blockchain space? So this is always the address, the key issue that everybody tries to address. So then we are the one also trying to, very humbly trying to identify, and then we try to give us solutions. So one of the things that, one of the market, the condition that we can see now is a lot of blockchain user currently is in what we call the crypto native. People are familiar and have some speculation values on the crypto tokens. So the people are attracted because they say, I buy this token, tomorrow it will be 10x, 100x, so I win. But how do you actually use that technology is not really very heavily discussed or explored. So a lot of things have been overseen, like just say, hey, which token is going to be launched, any meme coins, next meme coin, whichever meme coin that is going to be launched, let's go and go to the moon. So we actually, on our aspect, we actually look at, what is currently in the industry, what is the requirement and certain things that we can actually benefit by moving it to the blockchain space. Hence, one of the strategy we do is we partner with the industry players. That's why I mentioned earlier, one of the key strategic partner that we have is the A-Star Singapore, which is tightly connected to the Singapore space for all the industry frontier development. So they are the research agency, they can do developments and research to how to actually bring the real world use case into the blockchain. So they are always that we have a projects and research and different kind of initiative, that can actually make use of a blockchain technology. Instead, we're always looking for how many 10x, 10, 20x, this kind of model. So this is I think this is the adoption part that we are looking at. Hence, now come back to where your question just now. So in order to promote that, so we came out I think I mentioned briefly about the uniqueness of our chain. One is being the stablecoin as a gas fee. Second is being the privacy preserving, and thirdly is the KYC wallet. So all these features that we are building at the moment and to be released in the different quarters is actually to give a new tools, a new capability for people to build the Web2 solutions. So you don't have to worry about whether when you want to buy your own games without your wife worry, they can check your wallet transaction, or let people see how much coins do you have in your wallet and all stuff. So you can enjoy the privacy in the Web3 space. So imagine that in the future, whenever you do, you still enjoy the conveniences and the familiarity that you have enjoying in the Web2 space in the Web3 environment. So that will be the goal and the directions that we are aiming for. And then for the future, I think for the next 5 years, definitely right now the most hottest topic is about ZK. As you know, they're talking about AIs, everybody talking about AIs and stuff. So definitely, I think for the next coming foreseeable future, AI is going to be still the hottest topic, because the use case for AI is still continues spawn up. So eventually maybe there will be an AI chain that you just focus on, AI DAO. So let the AI take over and then let AI make the decisions. So we will not know. However, for us as a L1 chain, what we can do is really from now we build design and architecture to be future proof. What that means that that's why in the very beginning we decided to go with the modular design. So any new features and new layers for future need and services that we need, we can actually add a new layer. Like for example, in AI, what do AI need? They need the processing power, the GPU. They need the storage to encrypt the data storage. So this layer can be later added on to our layers to meet the demand and the requirement for the future growth. So this is something that for L1 is something we need to look for futures. How do we make it nimble enough or flexible enough in the more secure way to ensure the infrastructure can support the growth of futures. So this is what Hela is all about.
Fantastic. No, really cool. It just like you mentioned AI, it just I remembered how some layer ones shifted just to focus on AI, but it was a funny time period. Yeah. So the same I would like to actually raise to Arsenii, right? So basically, if you could tell us a little bit also about, right, what are the upcoming features, what does your community and the audience can look towards to, and in the near future, and basically how do you see the role of Gnosis evolving in the broader crypto ecosystem over the next 5 years?
Oh yeah, I will try. So according to the nearest feature, so first of all, we're still working on Gnosis Pay to extend the country which we are going to support. It's also to support Gnosis Pay are based on the layer 2, so which connected to other chain. It's not it's not working on the basic Gnosis chain. So we will extend the chains which we connect to layer 2. One of the technology which allows to bootstrap to to increase speed of this project is a Hashi. Hashi, it's an Oracle aggregator, which also one of the projects which Gnosis working on. So a lot of other feature which we working which to bring the real world stuff on chain about data availability layer and other features which are not ready to use, but we're working on it. And look on the history of the layer 1 and layer 2, I see that we little bit stopped making experiments, because if you remember about scale blockchain, about the NIR, about the other blockchain, which are was not just layer 2s, which are just the same as EVM. They trying to save the core execution part, the same language, the same RPC calls, but extend. For example, the key feature of the scale was they have storage, which allows to store a huge amount of data without the interaction with IPFS, and this data was reachable from the smart contract. This was our original idea. Nira provides asynchronous transactions. It provides a more flexible development to build a more complicated feature, but users decided to spend money on the still in EVM chains, and now most of the feature are focusing on the scaling stuff. It also was a big hype about ZK technology, but it's still not customer ready from my point of view, because it's still hard to implement in the project, and it's still hard to find the market fit for this feature. So, and as an AI also was as a hub, most of the project and hackathons which I saw was related on all store data sets on IPFS and sell as NFT, or accept payment accept payment for using AI. It's also not true on-chain AI. And EOS project was dead, unfortunately, from my point of view, but this school can provide the decentralized execution layer for this. But at the same time, it's interesting to look on Cartesi. They use Gnosis chain as a consensus layer, maybe fork of Gnosis chain. And they provide the execution layer based on the Linux distributive. So you have much more flexible, and I think you can host in it with GPU stuff. So it's bringing a new feature. But with still in crypto, we have a problem that it's very hard to make customer research if somebody make a customer research, because most the easiest way is just established one more layer 2 and just copy paste all existing projects to one more chain.
That's a fantastic answer. Thank you so much. It was really cool to listen to your point. So next we'll move to Sukesh. So maybe you could tell us like a little bit about what are the upcoming features or developments can people look forward to from Telos in the near future, and how do you see the role of Telos evolving in the broader crypto ecosystem over the next 5 years?
5 years is a long time.
Yes, I agree. Even 1 year is too long.
Yeah. I think the upcoming things that people need to look forward to in the Telos ecosystem is like we've been working on something called Telos Zero, which means basically zero limits to scaling and growth, right? So the vision for Telos network is that we're working on different technologies using ZK and trying to create this ecosystem of native chain, which is the zero layer, which would be Telos native. And then you also have these additional side chains and app chains for different purposes. So we've been talking a lot with different games who run different campaigns and specific programs for a period of time. And for those kind of use cases, like you don't want to have everything run on the main chain, you want to organize like a campaign on a side chain or like an app chain for a period of time. And once that campaign is finished, you want to transfer all those assets back to the main network. So like there are like a lot of different concepts that can be created surrounding this. So we are building the fundamental technology layer to support these kind of use cases and to basically create a vibrant ecosystem of network of networks, right? So we want to bring our best features like block speeds and instant finality of the transactions, but also like the flat gas fee model and the speed of the network to all these different use cases. So that's something that the technology side of things that's being announced in the next coming months, I would say. And I think over the next year and maybe 5 years, the goal is to go for the network as a whole is to become self-sustainable, as I mentioned earlier. Like the network has to be in a place where it has to be, it has to be self-sustainable from the revenue it generates through fees and everything to cover its own operations. And also to support the growth of the network as well. So it has to be like the full cycle, right? So that's kind of the vision that we are working towards, to create that situation where everything can be worked autonomously without a lot of manual work.
Fantastic. No, super great. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. So last but not least, it's Nimo or Nimrod. So what are the upcoming features that like people, audience, and all of us can look forward to from Q in the near future? And basically, how do you see the role of Q evolving in the broader ecosystem and in the next 5 years? And generally speaking, I made a note to myself to read your constitution. So please go ahead.
Fantastic, thank you. So what we are looking for, what people can look for in the near future is first of all the improvement of the kind of the features that we have already now. So what I've mentioned before, the smart contract update kind of supervision, or the treasury supervision modules that we're working on now, they should become much more kind of hands-off and streamlined and very easy to use. That, you know, hopefully in the next month they'd just be very kind of plug and play sort of scenario. At least that's where we're aiming to take it. So that's one direction. And then so the models that exist becoming more easy to use, and more models like that in different areas, right? We're looking into NFTs and the connection there with accountability into the real world, and we're looking into even go even one step further out, other use cases that are connected to real world, that securities / whatever, real estate, whatever. We're just looking at all these use cases together with different projects, and we're looking what we can do and how can we make that a reality. And some of them are already in the pipeline, some of them are a bit further out there, and have quite a lot of like legal work to be done behind it, or different types of research work that needs to be done. But definitely expect more of these use cases and these streams kind of coming and becoming a reality. When we look 5 years into the future, I kind of mentioned that in the beginning, we believe in this multi-chain world, right? Like this, there will be multiple chains probably out there, each bringing different strengths, and I think we saw that really well today. I think we have 4 representative of labs of 4 different chains, and every chain has a very distinct strength and weakness compared to the others, right? So I think that the future we're going to is definitely a multi-chain one, and where we strive to kind of be the best and is around the governance topics, and where we strive to and therefore we strive to a cross governance, cross-chain governance world, right? So that's where we're looking for in 5 years. Whatever, I don't want to say 5 years is the exact timeline, but that's sort of the vision.
Yeah, in crypto, 1 year is
exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
So my colleague Wen is gonna have for you now a challenge. So please go ahead, Wen.
Yeah. So In one word, if to summarize in one word, why people should build in on top of your layer one, for example, just one word, that's fine. Yeah.
Just one word, yes. So who wants to go first?
Gladiolus.
Sorry?
Gladiolus.
Gladiolus. Okay. You heard it all. So who is next?
I think for one word, I will say the limitless potential. Oh, that's two words.
Yeah.
Limitless. I'll say.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
we really try to get all the facility to people to build all sort of applications, by providing all this new approach, right? So it's limitless. If I have to choose one word. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you took my word.
All right, man. Great minds think alike.
Yeah. But I would say like speed, right? So speed. If you want speed, come for Telos.
Nimo.
For us, it would probably be accountability. Accountability.
Okay.
Okay.
Amazing.
Okay.
Thank you so much for just to wrap up, thank you so much everyone for participating in today's panel. We had a fruitful conversation and got to understand more about layer one, the quick overview, and all of your project in general. So thank you so much once again, and yeah, have a great weekend, guys, and thank you for everyone that is watching our AMA today.
Yeah, and thank you for joining us this Friday. I mean, it's weekend, but you're here. Thank you. It means a lot for us, and we'll share also the link for the video for you. Thank you so much. It was awesome.
Shabbat
Thanks,
is more
guys.
important.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Ciao, ciao.